Hey Charlie, just
What's
got
up,
back
buddy?
from Europe.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. I
man.
can't wait to hear about this. I've been watching your pictures or your social media,
Yeah,
and
it was surreal.
looking forward to hearing about it. Looks like it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, started it off with well, the first half Ireland and then bounced over to Scotland. So, today we can probably go over Ireland. There's so much to do. I mean, we would be here for hours if we talked about, start to finish all the different experiences there are for folks and what I experienced and saw and how the trips work. So, yeah, we'll go over
Sounds awesome.
Ireland and my first time there. Have you been there?
No, I haven't been to Europe.
Really?
No, I really that's on my bucket list to go to Europe for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like we were talking just a little bit ago. I mean, if we can make it happen where you and I end up over there together next year, it would be
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. Host some trips and cross a little bit in the middle, and you can go. One of us can go home, and yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you're good, we'll just get into it and go over
Yeah,
kind of how the trip went for me and a little bit on the different species. I think a lot of people leading up to this, when we brought Paul on and started looking at Ireland as a newer option for our portfolio, I think there's probably a lot of folks that were in the same boat, at least as me, that didn't realize how much there is to do, in Ireland on the hunting side and what experiences it offers. And man, what an eye opener it was from the service we got when I got there all the way through the hunts, man. It was spectacular. So hopefully, some people take note today and they reach out and start wanting to know, well, crap, maybe they're in the same boat as me and didn't realize, hey, I can go over to Ireland. It's easy,
right. I've
from,
always thought, and I think everybody does, Scotland's at the
yeah,
top of mind. That's what you're thinking about. But
for Western Europe. Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense that Ireland would be good too. So good.
So
How was the
yeah, we
travel?
lined it up. The communication with Paul has been phenomenal. There are really no gaps unless he's in the field with a client. I mean, he is super communicative. And again, folks will need to keep in mind when, we're talking about anything overseas or even, Hawaii on the complete opposite end. Time, there's a difference in time zones. So
Yeah,
obviously I'm not talking to him at, 5 p.m. our time, but
right.
his communication's been phenomenal. We set the trip up and the goal, as we're talking about kind of what my experience was, I want people to keep in mind, like we packed in a bunch. This wasn't really set up as a hunting trip. This was set up as, hey, let me get on deck with Paul and some of the folks he works with to see, what is there to offer, how are how's the population of animals, what's the quality, what's the experience going to be like. I foresee a lot of people wanting to go over or similar to the way it is in Scotland, they may be in Western Europe on a vacation, they may have family. So are there things that we can provide for other members that may not be hunting that's attractive for the family as a whole. So we packed a lot. I was on the island with Paul we landed Wednesday morning, I think it was at, well, there's a delay in flights and mess. We were supposed to get there at 6:30, didn't end up landing until about 10:30, it'll be something good to talk about as far as flexibility being needed on pretty much anything in Western Europe. But we get there, and I mean, from the get go, Paul's at the airport and he's waiting. I mean, he's literally, we get through baggage check and boom, he's there, greets us, handshakes, and hey, let's go. And he's like, do you need to go back and, you need to get some rest or no, let's go, let's get in the field. So well, Katie went with me on the first half of the trip. So she's there. We get out and get back to, we stayed at a bed and breakfast, which was a phenomenal location. It's a beachside area that's close to, it's kind of a central location. It's probably the bed and breakfast we would choose for most of the clients that we put over there. And the staff, Miss Mary, was phenomenal. Rooms were nice. I mean, the accommodations were just great. It's a gate, like a real. I have some photos for people to look at, but really nice setup. So we got there, offloaded, and he and I took off, man. And so that first evening or afternoon, he wanted to show me some of the Sika ground that they have. So we flew into Dublin. The Sika hunts predominantly will be on the south end. The accommodation was on the north end, but it's maybe 45 minutes from the bed and breakfast down to some of the hunting areas. And
Right. It's flight time.
we landed in Dublin, international flight into Dublin. Then he
Yep.
picks us up, drove us up to the bed and
Drove you
breakfast.
down.
Yeah.
You meant you hurried. You
Yeah,
flew down. Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, we were in a rush.
Yes.
So we got down to the secret ground. He's like, "Hey, let's get up on the high country. I want you to see for, spot and stalk options what we have, and then we'll go down." And that evening, he was going to me in on some of the timberland, lower lying ag country Sika hunts that they do. For folks that are listening and they're like, "I wouldn't mind getting in on a Sika hunt," we can run a spot and stalk hunt, which is high country, open ground, and very similar to a lot of our western hunts here, where you're in high country. It's a little bit windy, breezy, chilly, but you can see a long way, and you can plan out stalks and get in on a lot of deer. So we weren't in that country probably 10 minutes and started spotting deer.
Hmm.
It it he has access to thousands of acres in the high country, a lot of it being national park land. So one thing we'll consider is, depending on the time of year, there may be people, hikers out and about. So there were a number of areas where there were hikers. A lot of the stuff he hunts, that may not be the case, but it would just be something we would factor in and make sure we're not, just as people are getting up into the country there. It's just, for what it's worth, you're going to see cars and stuff parked along the side of the road. You're not going to be hunting in and amongst the hikers. There's enough land that he gets it out, away from where folks are, and you start putting your stalks on. And there were a lot of deer. The ground
Was it
is
during the rut?
no, they're just start. I was early. Well, they had a warm fall. They would have. There were some that were whistling, but I talked to him today, and he said it's kicking off now.
So
So
October
October
is
would be
the
that
rut.
if somebody's wanting to get in and they're going hard, we're going to aim for October. Yeah, the last week or two of September could be good if they get early. If the colder weather comes in.
Not that that's needed. That's just an added element that's fun.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, we saw deer. We saw deer in the high country, and we saw it, down in the ag country as well.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's just fun when they
That
start whistling and they're running hard. I mean, they're
yeah,
you're into stags.
that's awesome.
So yeah. But so we were just driving around looking at the terrain, and it's for the spot and stalk Sika hunts, it is going to take somebody that's, physically capable of getting out and getting up in the hills. I mean, there's elevation changes up and down. The footing is not quite what I expected. If you just look out at it, it kind of looks like I don't want to say it's can be a lot steeper than rolling hills, but if you look out like where you guys are, like you fly in, to Boise, and you're driving around and you see those ag fields, and it's all pretty hard ground though, right? You see all the cattle out, and this ground is not it. I haven't been in the tundra, but I can imagine just from folks that I've talked with that have been, and I know you have been, it's just mushy
Yes. It's
and it's
like
wet.
walking on a sponge.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
so in my head, I'm like, this has got to be similar to tundra. That
It
is what
probably
this is
was
like.
tundra.
And I mean, there were areas where there's grass grown across, and you would step in it, and you just step into like a little mini stream, and you don't realize it because it looks like grass, but it just falls out from under you. So it's not, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's certainly not easy. And
Yeah.
if, for folks that, physically need hard, solid ground, the spot and stalk, for the most part, would not be the first pick. There's some areas where it can certainly happen, but we're probably going to look at folks who are, want to physically get after it on the spot and stalk hunt. So we went through that country, and then we started dropping down to the ag fields and timberland areas. And for folks, the deer in the higher country in general aren't going to produce. If somebody's wanting, a trophy, there are trophies up there. We saw some good stags, but generally speaking, the deer down in the ag country is going to be bigger, antler wise, bigger bodied. They just have better food. So it's just like here.
Yep.
Just something to keep in mind, as folks are thinking about, hey, I'd like to go out there. If you're wanting the spot and stalk experience, we can do it. If you're wanting to go after, a true trophy Sika stag, we're probably going to be hunting fields down low.
Gotcha.
That is pretty easy. Physically, it's an easier hunt. Mentally, it can be challenging. So we got down that first afternoon and pushed through some ag fields, and we're glassing.
On foot?
and saw a few deer, but nothing that was, really eye popping. Just, mainly it's let's just see what's out here. Maybe we come across something really good and, that
Hunting on
produces a
foot?
shot. What's that?
Hunting on foot?
Yeah. Yeah. So you would drive, you would bounce from kind of area to area in a vehicle and then get out on foot and push through the fields and glass and call. So I was with Paul and then one of the other guys he works with, Philly, did a lot of calling just to see, but we were just a tad early at that point. We did end up the deer I ended up taking, he called in. But so yeah, you're moving from field to field, glassing, looking for anything that may be out in the field. There's some, hillsides to glass that has, some of it's open, some of it's kind of brushy, and just seeing what you can see. And we went through maybe, I don't know, we were maybe bouncing around for an hour and a half, and we got to a field where we had a big, it's about 300 or 400 yards out, just a big hillside that was all brushed, and ended up finding three really nice stags, feeding their way down into a bottomland in on that hillside. And so one thing that I learned, for us, a lot of times here, I would imagine, at least I know how, at least how I hunt, but I would imagine a lot of hunters would probably try to push to those deer and make a stalk, not understanding that that brush is kind of, it's very thick, and what'll
It's
happen.
taller than you think.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we were looking at it from so we were basically looking not on top of them, but we had a view in at an elevated position so we could see them. But when you put a shot on one, if you put one down, the worry is that you're not able to locate it, and that is not obviously desirable, and it's not really the way they hunt traditionally. So that just took, hey, are we going to make a move? Because that's how that, for me at home, that's probably what would happen. And no, we're gonna wait for them to, try to get down in that bottom, and hopefully they feed up to the field where we are. We just played the wind, sat up and waited, and those stags didn't end up coming up. And actually, what happened was a bigger one. It did end up coming up before him. There were some smaller ones that popped up, and some there were a number of females and calves. They call them calves, so like our yearlings. They were out and about in the field, but really the Sika come out late. So a lot of the hunts in that low country is going to be, if you do it in the morning, early before sunup, and you're trying to catch them before, because they'll get out of those fields quick, or more likely in the
Right at
evening,
dark.
right at dark.
Yeah.
So and what ended up happening was that's exactly what happened. And we were looking at, and I can't remember, they may tell me I'm wrong. I think it was about 175 yards to this edge of the field, and a big stag came out, man. Really tall, but it was dark enough that we couldn't even tell, is it an 8? Is it just a really tall 6? We couldn't tell. We just knew it was really tall, probably an 8 or better, but it would definitely be one that somebody would want to target. And what happened, and it comes down to the shooter. I could not, once I put that reticle on the deer, I could not make out my point of aim.
Right.
I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. There was shaded in the background, the deer was dark, and so it was just, I personally couldn't. There are probably a lot of folks that could. I couldn't make him out. I didn't want to put a bad shot on him, so he walked.
Right.
And that's probably, I know that happened with me. Then it happened the next night. And there were some other gentlemen in Scotland on a roe deer hunt that the same type thing was happening. They just couldn't make the deer out.
And
And
if you shoot,
so,
you pay, right? In Europe.
yeah,
Whether
well,
you
certainly
wound or not, if you shoot, you're paying for that animal. Is that
if you
correct?
wound, for sure. Ireland, that's a good question. I didn't ask. Scotland, yeah. If you
I know
target
that's
an animal and you miss,
yeah,
then, payment starts to come into play. So you want to make sure that you're on target. You can see your point of aim and make a good shot. But I mean, and, even aside from the pay, that's just the right thing to do for
it
me.
is. And people need to realize when you're hunting in a different country, you're hunting by their rules and traditions, not
Yeah,
ours here.
right. It's
The way
different.
they do it there is the way they do it, and that's you're gonna pay according to how they do it. So know those rules up front.
Yep. And so, there was a lot of conversation I had with them that's like, hey, going back to the stags on the hillside, like, hey, at least me, I probably would push to them. What's the thought process? And they give it to me. Okay. I'm there. I'm their guest. They're the professionals. And so I go, there were a number of times, and we'll talk about Scotland later. There were on my red stag hunt there. Same thing where I think I would have made a different call here,
Mhm.
but it doesn't matter what I would have done here because I'm with the professionals there.
Right.
And in the end, every single time it worked out for me. What I may have done different in the end, their decision worked in my favor.
Right.
And so that was for me was a great learning experience. And for folks, out there realize for the Sika and the row, once we talk about that at a later time in Scotland, I mean that this is a they come out late sometimes. And I mean, you're really gonna be on that cusp of woof, it's pretty dark or it's too dark to shoot or I can't make it out in the scope. And hey, th- there's tomorrow, hopefully,
Right.
depending on number of days you book. And for me, yeah, I had a very limited time frame to get hunts in, and it's still just I just wasn't comfortable with it, so we passed. But the thing, I mean, he was big. It was a big stag. So that kind of ended with that first day, and man, things were just it was rapid fire since getting off the plane and going here, looking at this, looking at that, and it was by the end of the day, I'm in deer.
Right, and it was a vetting we should say this was a vetting trip, so you weren't there necessarily getting the same hunt that a hunter would get, it wouldn't be so
Correct.
rapid fire. You were checking out his different operations, he's showing you this field and this field, and I operate here, and we can put
Yeah,
people here to
exactly.
stay, and that's what you mean by it was rapid fire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Paul, he's like, hey, Charlie, I want you to come over and see what we have.
Mhm.
Because it's one thing to talk about it on the phone and, send you pictures and you can talk to other clients we've had, but get on the ground here with me and see and let you make the call. Is it the experience I'm telling you or is it not? And so what that involves not just the hunt. I mean, you mentioned like it's accommodations, it's where we going to eat. How's the travel to and from? There's one hunt we'll talk about in a minute on a private island. How do we get there? How does that transfer go? So all of these things were part of this trip, and it was run and gun for 3 days straight. It was not me hunting and putting hours and hours in the field trying to take an animal. It was go, 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 go. Let's see what experience our folks are going to have when they're there. The whole thing. So, yeah, that first day we checked out accommodations and I stayed where people will stay. And like I said, it's phenomenal. It's a bed and breakfast and the breakfast was phenomenal. I didn't get to eat the breakfast until I think the morning we checked out because we were up and at it early, and that was fine. My wife was there, so she was kind of handling, hey, how's it going with Miss Mary? How's the,
Right, he
how's the
was
break?
vetting that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
wanted her, and that was part of it. And I talked to Paul. He's like, that's phenomenal because a lot of these trips there probably will be couples, and so how's the significant other? What is it going to be like for them? And
mhm,
Katie loved it. Breakfast was great. I got in one night at 9 o'clock. She had been sitting in the kitchen with Mary, chatting all night, just having conversation, learning about the country, learning about history. I mean, it was, yeah, she had a great time.
yep, good, good,
So yeah. So day one was devoted to getting my eyes on some of the secret ground. Day two was gonna be stag, red stag, and then day three was gonna be on the island which has a just an abundance of beautiful fallow and wallaby. Surprisingly, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah,
what the hell?
yeah, yeah.
I saw a
So
picture on your Instagram,
you
I thought
thought I
you
photoshopped it, didn't you?
photoshopped it.
Everybody didn't know. That joker just
Funny,
sat there and looked at me.
okay, that
Yeah,
surprises me, I've never heard of
yeah,
that,
this loaded. I mean,
crazy,
yeah, there's too many. There's too many, really. But we'll get to that one. So the next day was red stag. So red stag hunts will be about 2 hours north of Dublin.
okay,
So if folks are there on a stag hunt or red stag, they will be staying up in that country. So they would be picked up in Dublin, transferred up. Paul will be with them, and they'll be staying up there. And there's bed and breakfast options. We went by and saw some of them. They look phenomenal. There is a nice hotel, and then there is a luxury hotel option. So housing wise, accommodation wise, there are plenty of really nice options up in
you
the
can fit
area
your
of
budget,
yeah,
what you're looking for and what fits your budget,
exactly.
okay,
So we got up there, and unfortunately that day, we got out and got up high. He wanted to get up high out of some of the timber and get in the high country and start glassing. I thought time-wise, I'd be right on the cusp of them starting to roar, but again, this warm weather pushed things back a little bit. I think we heard one roar, and it was a long way off. They just weren't doing it yet. So he he had some really, really big stag on camera. And, for folks that maybe some folks have been to Scotland and they see what the stags are in Scotland and a lot of Western Europe. I mean, the stags we're hunting in this area, it's not what you're going to find in New Zealand.
No.
Or, it's not as big. We'll talk about when we go to Scotland on why that is the thought.
Mm-hmm.
But in Ireland, if you compare photos of what people have harvested there and what they're harvesting in Scotland, the red deer, the red stag in Ireland they're a really nice deer. And some people would say the quality wise, probably a little better than Scotland.
Okay.
I learned some things on Scotland. I don't think that's quite, I think they're probably equivalent.
It's a tradition
Scotland.
thing.
What's that?
It's a tradition thing.
It is in
Yeah.
Scotland.
My mic's
Yeah,
not.
they act,
Is it?
and I didn't know that till I got there. They don't target the biggest class.
Right.
They pass. I passed on an absolute monster of a deer. I mean, a monster stag because they want him to breed. So they don't target him. We passed on him, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I think they're probably an equivalent quality. Again, deer that stay up in the high country are going to probably not grow quite as big as those that are a little more low lying and get some more nutritional food options in the ag country that's low. So Paul has an area. It's got some low lying timbered areas, and then it rolls. It can go way up to, some high country that's open hilltops. So that's where we started thinking we'd be able to glass. Man, fog rolled in, really thick fog. So glassing was out. It was done. So we had a really nice drain that was open right along the edge of the hillside. So he's like, man, let's post up here. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll hear one that we can move to. But if not, maybe we'll get lucky and one will crawl. It was not, there was a lot of signs. So, maybe we can get one crossing to and from. And we sat there for a minute. And again, they just weren't talking, didn't see any. So he's like, we can get up higher and see, maybe, get in position if the fog burns off, or we can move low and get down in the timber and just slip and see what we come across down in the timber. It's open under, it's an open understory in a lot of the areas. So you can see, I mean, it's not like looking across a hilltop, but so it's like, all right, let's make the move down low and see, and we'll give time for we were going to spend all day up there. So let's give time for the fog to burn off. And as soon as we start to move, I look down and I see a little white butt down below me. And I'm like, man, Paul, there's something down here. So we glassed it. It ended up being some wild goats, which they have that as an option to hunt. And this area has a couple herds of wild goats, kind of like Hawaii. They're wild born. They've been in the wild their whole lives. And so there were two really big billies. I mean, big. And so I harvested, not the biggest. The biggest one ended up a nanny. They fed up to us, and a nanny ended up busting me a little. And so the biggest billy moved off into the woods. I mean, he had a really tall set of horns, came way up, curled down, one full curl, and started. I mean, just a monster. He was huge. But next to him, I ended up the one which you probably saw the photo of. I harvested another really, really, really good.
Nice.
Yeah. And so, I was thrilled with that. It shows folks, hey, in Ireland, we have Sika, we have the red deer, we have fallow and goat. So there's four big, known big game animals. We can talk about the wallaby in a minute, but it offered opportunities. Hey, okay, so here's something else that, a different experience we can offer people on trophy gold medal. I mean, these are gold medal goats. They're some really big billies. And so, we did that and got through that business. And then he's like, man, by the time we got done quartering and taking care of the goat, the fog had started to burn off. He's like, you want to go up top? We'll throw everything in the truck and we can shoot up top and see where where it's open hill country and start glassing the fog's burn off. So that's what we did. And again, I found out, the ground up on those open hilltops, I mean, it's just mushy and it was wet. So when folks go over there, we got rained on that day. That was the only real day. Well, the next day we did a little, but this day it rained a good portion of that morning. A little bit hard here and there, but it wasn't crazy, but I was wet. And the ground, even when it wasn't raining, was wet. it never, anytime we were in those that hill country, and it had shin high, knee high grass, it just stayed wet. So if you don't have water, you just need waterproof boots. Like, I'm just going to say, if you're going over there, you need waterproof boots. Gaiters would be recommended because it just didn't seem like it would dry out. So rain gear is going to be important for folks when they get over there. Glassed and moved and glassed, and the deer just weren't out. Didn't see any there. And so the hope, the way Paul generally runs the hunts is it's a focused on the rut, and I was too early. So for folks right now that we're going to work with on the stag hunts in Ireland, it's going to be, we're going to eye October and catch them in the roar. So you can move to them, you can catch them out in open country, moving from one place to the other, because they have really quality deer, and they have a number of them. So it just happens that morning, the weather, just between it being warm and then we had a lot of fog, we just missed being able to be on the top before they got back in the timber. And once they got in the timber, it's just comes down to almost like deer hunting, in the eastern US, where, you're just going to sit up and, try to catch them slipping from one place to the other, going to food or to bedding area. And so about halfway through the day, we made the call that, hey, let's go back and try Sika again. We know those deer were active. They were out. So we bounced and went back to south of Dublin and set back up for Sika that evening in a couple different areas. And again, 20 minutes before dark, the deer just started popping out, and he's glassing them. And it just, I didn't get I didn't ever put my eyes on through the scope on a good stag, but he called one big stag in, and you could see it bounce across, bounced over a fence and came straight to us. And there was a bottom between us and the field he was in, and he never came up on our side. And there was never an opportunity for me to get on him. But again, it was just that cusp of, hey, they're about to start. I mean, there's some stags that they're interested. They're coming to calls a little. He had called one in that morning. I think it was that morning. He said he had some that were calling still. So we moved between a couple fields, and another, big stag came out in the dark. I just couldn't find it in the scope, and he found it in the binoculars. I found it in mine, but it was literally, it had started to move across the field, and I just saw the movement through my glass, and I never could get on it with the scope. And honestly, at that point, if I'm struggling in the glass, there's no way I'd have found it,
Right.
and been able to make a shot. So kind of the same thing, happened, where they were just out late, which in that warmer weather seems to be the norm. So, we ended up the day, we saw some good deer, we saw some good stags. I harvested a beautiful goat, a really big goat, and so it was a great day. Got back, Katie had a great day traveling. There's some train options or right around the village where the bed and breakfast is, so she jumped on the train and went and saw some different cities and did some shopping. I think there was one of the little towns had some good shops, so checked out there's a little pub down from the bed and breakfast that has phenomenal food. Phenomenal food. She ate there, I think three or four times, and she loved it. Really good clam chowder. So that wound up that day. And then the following day was going to be on the island. And so what happens, this island's 2 miles off the coast. And for clients, we will have the transfer as soon as you get to Dublin Airport to the end of your trip. When you're unloaded at Dublin Airport, it's covered. So if you're going to the island, one thing we have to keep in mind is it's based on tidal patterns and weather. If inclement weather comes in, it's going to be tough. The boats aren't going to move across that channel. And also, which happened to me, the first morning we got there, we were supposed to be on the island day one instead of Sika. And what happened, our flight out of Philadelphia got delayed 4 hours, and we missed a window to get there on the right tide. So we couldn't get across. So we are going to build in a day on the front end of these trips and the back end, really, for folks that, if your flight's delayed coming in, we're not going to try and rush you to the boat and get over there, because there's a chance you miss it, and we don't want to kill a day.
So the first day, Sika, right?
Yeah, it can be. If they want to add in a Sika hunt, then yeah, absolutely. Or, we'll get them. There's some really nice, again, you can stay at the bed and breakfast we did, or There's a lodge there right in the harbor. There's a beautiful lodge on the harbor. For the hosted hunt, we'll talk about in a little bit. That's where we're going to put folks. But that it's going to be a point of discussion. They can stay in Dublin maybe and see what Dublin has. But the biggest thing is we don't want to try and rush it as soon as they land, because there's just too much that can go wrong, and then they miss the boat and it eats up a day of hunting, and we don't want that. So we get to the boat, covered boat. So if it's pouring, which it was raining at the start, covered boat. So we're inside, warm, not, dry, easy boat ride. It was a 15-minute ride by boat from the mainland over to the island. And like I mentioned before, this island has, for folks, we generally will run this as an all-inclusive trip on the island where your accommodations will be on the island. And it has a big lodge, or it has some other cottage options. Obviously, there's a price difference in there. Meals will be included. And there's a castle. There's a micro distillery on site. There's the option to pheasant hunt. It's just, there's seals. The little harbor you pull into on the island was loaded. There were seals everywhere. So for, there may be some folks that want to see some, do some seal watching. There's that. It's just a really cool setup. It's 1,200-ish acres, of which a portion of that's contained, that's where the lodging and the castle and all that is. So you're not really going to be hunting right there, but maybe 1,000 acres huntable. And there's some woods, but a lot of open country, rolling hills. So it offers folks the ability at pretty much any physical level to be able to have a hunt on a place exclusive to them. Like, you're the hunters. It is, and it's loaded with fallow. There are a lot of pheasant, there's a lot of wallaby, but I would assume a lot of people are going to want to go there to fallow hunt, because the potential for a really, really nice buck is there. We saw some. I saw, you saw the one I harvested, which was that was a representative, which is what I want to show folks. Hey, this is,
yes.
You go there. Let's hope for this.
Yep.
If you get bigger, great.
Right.
But let's hope for this, because there's a lot of this hit there. Mm-hmm. And we saw 4 that were a lot bigger.
Wow.
So that's
so pretty.
Yeah, they are. And yeah, I got, mine was, it had the spotted coat. There's some chocolate. We've got one client that really wants a chocolate stag, or a chocolate fallow buck, and so they've got chocolates. It's just a wide range of color schemes, and they're really majestic looking. The way they come out, and they have that pad, like that palmated
like a moose kind of.
Yeah.
I was never impressed by fallow until I saw him in person on the hoof, and then it's, wow, that is a cool animal.
It is. And man, do they blend in. So he had some big ones on camera. He's got some cameras set up there. I mean, there's some monsters. So we just started hiking, and again, the ground there's a little harder, but wet. It was wet. It had rained before, and it just didn't dry out. So again, another wet hunt, but we got a little bit of rain going over, but after that, it cleared out. I mean, it was a little overcast, and then it gets sunny, and then overcast. So just a beautiful day. And pretty much the whole time you're there, you can see like this ocean scene that plays out at all the different views, or you look across the channel to the mainland. I mean, it's just beautiful. The whole time you're hunting that island, you look out and you're like, I can't believe I'm hunting. And that's what Katie went with me on this one.
Good.
Yeah. And she's like, this is just freaking beautiful. I'm like, it really is. Like, we're so fortunate to be able to this guy, we're partnering with a guy that can put us in a place where it's exclusive to us. Mm-hmm. We're the only ones there hunting. There were some people at the castle. I mean, I think the Lord, the gentleman and family that owns the estate, they were down in the castle. It's where they stay. And there were people milling about around the lodges. But when we were out hunting, it was just us looking at just beautiful open country and then the ocean and a ton of deer. And we immediately started getting into deer. And we bumped one a lot bigger than the one I harvested that was bedded down below us, and we just bumped him before he saw us before we saw him. Pretty much every knob you roll over, at some point, if you glass out, it may be, maybe you have to glass a couple ridges over, you'll start to see some deer. But really, I think what folks will love about it is you can make it as challenging or as easy as you want. But if you're somebody that really wants to just sit down and glass and find a trophy, then it offers the country. It's not like it's, a pasture. It's brushy. There's undergrowth. There's plenty of ground where when those deer bed up, you're not going to see them. I mean, you're really going to have to work like you would out west. You're really going to have to work to see. You know, if it's like you're trying to glass up a coos deer, you know, a hillside full, you know, in the sage or finaging, whatever, you know, whatever it is they're in. It's similar to that, where if you put the work in, you're probably going to find a trophy along said hillside, but it's going to take work picking through the brush to try and find, you know, that set of antlers that just glimmers one time when he turns his head. And we ended up doing that. But we I don't know, man. We maybe took 2 hours and we came up on a really good herd that had 3 different bucks in it. And so that was where I took the one I did. And the group as a whole, he kind of bumped off, but the buck I harvested, he didn't realize why they scattered, and he kind of, you know, popped up and was looking around trying to figure out what was going down. And that's the one I took. Big, you know, just a beautiful buck, beautiful coat. And, you know, shot wise, again, it's open country. So if somebody's confident, you know, and they want to reach out, the opportunities there. Clients and what the guys hope for is a, you know, 100 to 200 yard shot, you know, maybe under that, but unless somebody's confident and they know, hey, this person's a shooter, that, you know, obviously you don't want to be pushing limits because there's just so much opportunity there. You don't have to. You're going to see deer. It's going to, you know, you're going to get into deer if you keep working. So there's really no need to push limits of your capabilities on this hunt. So I think I don't know that we even got the yardage on what mine was. It wasn't difficult. But so we got him dressed up. And one thing to note, you know, we're walking and hiking the whole time, but they have, you know, whether it's a four-wheeler or a side by side, as an opportunity to get people to and from. They have a couple box stands set up. So again, going back to, you know, physicality, we can work with anybody on this hunt. If we need to get them by four wheels to a box stand, there's box stands available in good locations where the herds end up moving through there at some point during the day. And to get deer out, they ended up bringing a four-wheeler up, and that's how they got them off. And we kept moving around the island. Again, my goal was to see as much as I could to be able to relay to everyone, hey, here's the complete picture of hunting on this island. Dress the deer out. We continued hiking, came up on some good deer. We came up on, you know, the one video, I don't know if you saw it, I did put it on social media, that buck we glassed up. He was bedded down in the brush, and we just saw one. He turned his head one time in the sun.
I did see that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man, was he a monster.
Yeah.
So Paul's like, you want to put a stalk on him and get closer, see if you can get him on camera? Like, yes. We moved in on him from a long way off to 15 yards before he winded us. And I wish people are going to ask, I wish this would be, I would go back next week if we could hunt with a bow in Ireland.
Really?
It's not available in Ireland.
Really?
Can't do it. So it would be a phenomenal bow hunt. I mean, just an absolute blast. So we got up on him, and, you know, he spooked off, and we got some good footage of him. And then we worked our way around the whole other side of the island and saw a number of different herds, a number of different color patterns on the bucks, and a number of different big bucks. Like I said, there were 4, maybe even 5 that were bigger, but they have a good herd coming up. They have a lot of younger ones. So, I mean, the next couple of years is going to be great. He had one, and I can't remember my year. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. He said he had some on camera that he knew nobody had harvested them, but he wasn't sure if they had died or what happened because he just hadn't got them on camera. They were on the other side. We found one of them on the other side of the island, so I don't know if that one's just not been to the side where he's got the camera. We saw big chocolate color. I mean, he looks black, just a monster. So he was glad to see that. So there's still a number of trophies and a lot of representatives like the one I took, and then there's a little bit smaller class that over the next year or two is going to be cool.
That's great.
So with that, they do pheasant hunts there as well.
Saw a lot of birds.
Saw a number of birds.
And are those pheasant hunts like upland bird hunting with dog, with the pointer?
Yeah. So you can do walked up or like a mini driven.
Mm-hmm.
But they have the dogs. They've got dogs that they'll bring over for the pheasant hunts. Yep. Yeah. The hosted trip's going to have 2 days of fallow and a day of pheasant. And I mean, you know, people are just going to be, the whole time they're going to be in animals. So whether they're, you know, it's the day of wing shooting, they're going to be in birds. And they do a really cool, some of it will be up on the hillside. Again, physically, we can work with anybody's physicality or physical level. It's not really going to affect their ability to get into birds and have a good shoot. But they do it on the hillside, but then they will have it where they drive birds toward, like, the guys could be lined up along the castle wall and down on that stretch of land. There won't be people out and about. And so you're literally bird hunting alongside a freaking castle.
That's awesome.
It's cool. Yeah, he took me down and showed me where they lined guys up last time. He's like, we'll have to change it a little bit this year. I think they added some solar panels, so we don't want to shoot them. It's just the landscape and the backdrop. I mean, to be able to hunt with birds coming into you, and you got a castle around you and just this pristine looking environment with the historical backdrop of a castle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be cool. Yeah.
Almost like it feels, I've not done it, but it seems like it would feel like you're hunting pheasants the way pheasants are supposed to be hunted.
Yeah. The old school, Irish and Scottish pheasant hunts.
Yeah.
You're going to get that traditional feel. No doubt.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love pheasant hunting. I just really, really enjoy hunting pheasants.
They have, I mean, there's a wild population there, obviously. And then they will release birds earlier in the year as well, just to make sure they're keeping up, population wise, and making sure they're good hunts. Because they do, man, I think in the fall here coming up, I think season's about open. Man, I think they do one every Saturday almost, but they book out a year or two in advance. Like he's slammed, but they'll do it's more local folks that they come back year after year, and they'll run the boat over. They don't stay on the island for that one. They just run the boat over and do the hunt, and then he brings them back, and they run into the pub right there when the boat docks, and it's interesting. Remind me though in a little bit to talk about the guns. What I was going to say was, you go into the pub and there's just lined up guns alongside the pub inside, because in Ireland we'll just talk about it now. You can't, they're not allowed to leave. Like if you're traveling with a firearm, you have to stay with it. You can't leave it in your vehicle.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so for us, like for me, our clients are going to have to fill out some paperwork ahead of time, and we need to build in about 8 to 10 weeks on that to get it approved by the government for us to be able to handle firearms over there. So like for mine, and it's easy. So it's easy. Paul sends the form. I filled out my basic personal info, my address. I send it back. He adds in some pertinent information that only he will know, like the serial number on the gun. And basically I was permitted to hunt with his gun. Yeah. And that's the one you
take your own if you wanted to, because some people get crazy about that.
I don't believe that's an option in Ireland. And I mean, it's hard enough. Not hard. It's a process for you to be able to use the outfitter's gun. I would I don't see, I mean, I just wouldn't, my clients, I'm not going to recommend doing that. There were of all the different guns I shot from over the last 2 weeks, not a single one of them had an issue. And we zeroed in and everything was fine on the front end. But yeah. So yeah, so we just, for the rest of that afternoon, we got around the island, and I think we got off. I say the rest of the afternoon, it wasn't. We got off about 1 o'clock. We only had about 4 hours allotted for me to be on the island that day again. The tides had an effect there, and we had to get in and out. And I think this is how cool these guys are. They originally, like I said, had planned for me to get over there on Wednesday. It didn't happen because my plane was delayed. The operators had plans for Friday that they changed to get me and Katie to this island. Like they worked around our schedule, and really it caused it kind of, I don't want to say it put them out. It didn't put them out, but it definitely created a situation where they were having to scramble because they had other duties they needed to tend to and work as well, to make it the experience it was for Katie and I. And even though it was, they said we can do 4 hours, but we got to be back to get you off by 1. So, that was it. We got to see the whole island, took a beautiful fallow, saw a lot of birds, wallabies there as an option. They were released. Shoot, he told me it's been a long time ago. Somebody brought wallaby over, thought, they wanted to have wallaby on the island, and they've just reproduced. And I guess they're like rabbits because they are everywhere. It is an option to hunt, we will talk about that. If that's something somebody, folks want to add on, we'll have pricing for that.
You didn't whack one?
I didn't. No,
What's your problem?
no. Yeah. So, I didn't, I guess the way I was looking at it for the whole time was I was fine not taking the biggest animal because that's their income. So I
Mhm.
didn't, especially on, like this island, like there's folks that are going, we want our clients to go over there and have a shot at trophies, and
Yes.
they're there. And I didn't want to take that
One of those.
from future clients because they were just, man, it was just top tier service. And so I harvested a representative, and that's great. We can show folks, here's what we're going to target. And at the same time, with the wallaby, wasn't on my list to want to take. And so I didn't, I'm sure it would have been, hey, he would have given me the thumbs up. It just wasn't, for me, wasn't on the list. And so I didn't, but they're there. I mean, the whole time we were in the middle of wallaby. So it's cool. It's cool to see though. I mean, you're
Yeah,
not, where are you going to go? You got to go a much further distance across the world to see them in a natural environment. So this gives somebody an opportunity while they're hunting trophy fallow. They'll see some wallaby.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we dropped back down, jumped on the boat, headed out, saw a bunch of seals, got back to the mainland, and then split off. Katie went back we got her to the bed and breakfast, ate some food, and then he's like, "You want to go try Sika one more night?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I really would love to get to take a Sika. They're a cool animal. They're a lot like our whitetail, beautiful coats, and they their necks kind of, especially as they're starting to come into rut. Like our deer, they swell up, but the Sika almost have like a mane, and
Kinda
I'm
like an
sure
elk.
something. What's that? Yeah,
Kinda like an
yeah,
elk mane. Yeah.
yeah. So, and it just looking at them, they're just there's a cool animal. So I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, man, I want to go back out. I'm kind of taken to these animals a little bit. I want to see some more. So we went back out, met Philly. Now, this is again for our clients. Philly, he was the guy that managed, he does a lot of the Sika side of the hunting with Paul, and has a lot of really good ground. He was frustrated. He wasn't kicking himself because he put us in deer, but he's like, man, you should have had a deer. Frustrated that we hadn't taken a deer the first 2 nights. And so, he got that third opportunity. And we're sitting there at his house waiting before we go out and just chatting. And he's like, man, I got two areas, one or the other. He's like, I can't make my mind up. I'm like, brother, whatever we go, I'm sure we'll see deer. It's going to be fun. And if I don't take it, it's fine. Like I'm getting this crazy experience that you guys are providing. And if the harvesting of deer is just the icing on the cake. But even if I don't get, if we just go out and look at deer, let's go do that. So you tell me, you take me to wherever you think that'll be. He's like, man, I think I know where we're going to go. And so we headed out, and again, ag fields, so just very similar to whitetail, not physically challenging. We parked, bounced across 2 fields to get to the far end of one, and kind of pulled off into the edge of the woods. And it was looking, we were at the bottom, and the field it kind of went up, and so you're looking up across this field, and we weren't even set yet, and a young, again they call them calves, so like a yearling or a very 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 young deer came out and just started feeding. And that was early. He's like, it's a good sign. For there to be deer in the field already, it's a good sign. So he's like, I think I'm gonna try and call. And it had started to drizzle a little bit, but he calls out, and within 5 minutes, he's like, and the way we were sitting in the woods, there was a tree blocking. I couldn't see the far end edge of one field. I could see to my left a long way, and then Philly was next to me, and then Paul was on the other side. Well, Philly could see further down to my right. He's like, man, there's a big one coming. There's a big one coming. Get ready. And so I'm trying to see through the leaves, and I can't see. And then I just see this glimmer, and it was just red, just beautiful red coat. And I was like, man, that's a beautiful deer. I'm like, is it just one or is there more? He's like, no, it's just one. He's coming to the call. We got lucky because he was coming to us, and the angle he was coming from, if he had stayed on that path, he'd have been on top of me before I would have been able to see him. He saw that young deer at the bottom to my left, and I'm assuming probably, yeah. So he's coming to us, and then boom, stops, and then starts, I mean, just straight across my view, perpendicular to us. And so I laid up and waited, and he just presented, and I'll send you the photo, but Philly filmed it,
Wow.
filmed the shot, filmed the whole thing, yeah. And he stops right dead in front of me, and just it's almost, I don't he just stands and his leg. I mean, I don't know how you'll see when I show you the photo, like just the way he stood, like just proud, and his neck's. I'm assuming he's starting to run. He's coming to a call. His neck's all puffed out, and he's looking around like I'm the man. It was just cool, really, really cool looking deer, beautiful color, and I put a good shot, and that was that. Uh, yeah, right at the end of that day, and that was the last day. So I got real lucky, man. On this, I had limited time to hunt. I had 4 hours on the island. 5 hours we put up north looking for the reds, and that's really, we had allotted a little more time. It's just weather didn't make out what I needed, but I got a great goat, a beautiful fallow, and the views. I mean, you just can't put to words how the views you see on this island where we're sitting here doing work on the fallow deer. After I got him, and you just look out and it's like, man, this is just beautiful out here. And then to follow it up with a Sika, and they're all quality.
Yeah.
In limited time frame. I mean, had I been able to, morning and night put time into hunting, there's no telling what we would have been able to. So yeah, Philly, I was glad for Philly, man. He put it together, and he even called the deer in. So, kudos to him. It was just cool, just a unique experience all the way across the board, and limited amount of hunting time. And I got three, of Ireland's big game species.
That's
And
great.
so,
That's great.
yeah, I got to
All
see
three, correct? All three of their species.
the red. Didn't get the red.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You're right.
Yep.
Yep.
Didn't get the red. But
Yeah, the biggest one,
yeah.
the one people are thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, the time frame that we're probably gonna focus on is a little shorter for that, just to make it, a similar type experience to what I had with the others. Once they start talking, I mean, that was what we were really missing. Was it's kind of like Argentina, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's on, man, it's a hunt.
And
And
when it's off,
so,
it's quiet and you don't
yeah,
think there's anything there.
it's tough. So had we not had that fog, I think things would have been different. But we couldn't see. So is what
That's
it is,
tough.
right? It's the card we were dealt.
Yep.
And we built what we do with the red stag hunts is a 4-day hunt.
Right.
So to make sure, if we have a day like I had, well, then hopefully the next day it was beautiful. Then, we followed up with a day where, okay, we can get out and do the kind of hunt we need to do. And then if you add in them being in the roar for that, along with that, it just, now you can move to them, you can see them. So that's going to be the goal with the reds.
Cool. Let's
So
talk about
yeah,
Katie for a second. Was she able to get out of the bed and breakfast and go to any shops, go
so here's
explore
what
anything? What was she able to do?
so the little area where there's some shops and pubs in the town where the B&B is, it was maybe a half mile down, and she walked it.
Okay.
Yeah, she wasn't there wasn't a concern, there wasn't like, don't go out here, don't go down there. These are like fishing villages, and everybody knows everybody. So yeah, day one, she left, she got up, did her breakfast, which, by the way, the breakfast is phenomenal. She got up, she did that, headed down to, well, I think she just hung out the first morning until lunch, and then she went down to the pub, had lunch, it was great. And I think did the same thing for dinner. The next day, she went, jumped on a train. The Miss Mary dropped her off at the train station. You could, she would have been able to get a taxi if she wanted, which their Uber is taxed. You can use Uber there, but it's going to be taxi service. That's just the way they work it in Ireland. They don't have like private drivers. It's not allowed. So it'll be taxi service, but you can still use the app.
Okay.
So she could have done that, but Mary was like, she just dropped her off at the train station. And Katie, the way the transportation system, both there and in Scotland, is phenomenal. So she jumped on the train and went to some nearby towns. She's big into horses. So there was a really nice tack store in one of the close towns that she wanted to go check out, spend some money. So that's what she went and did. Hit another town or two again by train that had shops and had somewhere for her to eat, and then made her way back.
And she enjoyed
So
it. That was a good experience for a non-hunter.
yeah, absolutely. And Dublin is only 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and this is, we're talking really, our clients will be probably at the B&B I was at, if they're going to Sika hunt, fallow hunt, pheasant hunt, basically one of those hunts where I was at is very central. So if it's just a Sika hunter, maybe there are two other options, really nice accommodations that are right in the middle, like down by where Philly and lives and where the hunting is done, both high and the low country hunts. That could be an option, but it's only 20 minutes from the south. Like it's still just 20 minutes from Dublin. So the red deer hunts will be 2 hours north. But it's a similar, all these little towns are very similar. They'll have some shops, they'll have somewhere to eat, they'll have pubs. There's a plethora of things for people to do. There's obviously a ton of historical sites to go see. So yeah, she loved it. If she wanted to go into Dublin, she could have. We waited. Her and I did that, kind of just her and I on Saturday and Sunday. So I was with Paul Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we were again running and gunning, trying to get my eyes and feet into as much of what he has to offer. And then Saturday and Sunday, her and I went to Dublin, which it's a big city, and so we did. We saw some of the scenic areas, a castle. We went to a museum, restaurant. I mean, it's what a big city would have. There was plenty of shops. We took a bus ride up to a national park, which ended up being the national park that ties into where Paul can hunt the
Wow.
Sika. So yeah, I looked before we went. I brought my binoculars. I brought my harness, and so we're hiking, and there was a lot of people. The hike we did, there was a ton of people, but we went to a lake that had a big grassy area, so we laid down in the mountain. There's a big mountainside kind of that wraps around this lake. So I just laid down and started glassing deer. And so it was cool because she's laying next to me, and I'm like, look at the rest of there's one tree you see. Yeah, look just to the right, and there's deer feeding there. It was cool.
Yeah.
That ton
Very
to do.
cool.
We'll pretty much, it can, if it's just hunters that want to go and hunt, there's a lot of hunting to be done. If it's a couple, that's there and they want to add in a hunt to something they're doing, or maybe the husband or wife wants to hunt and the other significant other doesn't, we can accommodate it. If, it's a family group, same thing. There's golfers, there's golf courses, but there's
Right.
something for everybody, and the hunting is great and the views are great and the service was top tier. I mean, from the start, like I said, Paul was waiting. It wasn't like I had to go meet him in a car. He was waiting as we walked out from baggage claim, there he was.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Sounds like it was, I've been on some vetting trips that have been less than desirable. Sounds like this one was good.
Oh, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the price points, I mean, the price points are starting at $2,700, $2,800, but that's just hunts. That's not going to have meals and lodging included. And the reality is, my recommendation would be to do meals and lodging included in it. We can do it. And that bumps it up. It depends on the hunt, $1,000.
Yeah.
Because it's just not as expensive as stuff is here.
Right.
So, to get in a 3-day Sika hunt, or even the all inclusive on the island is in, man, I think that's around $3,800 for a 2-day fallow hunt on the island, where lodging, meals are included. You're there, you're on the island.
Wow.
That I mean, I took a really nice buck in 3 hours.
Right.
So if somebody, wants to stalk for 2 days and really try to find, what they would consider this is the man of the island, I'm going to go, that's the buck I want. 2 days is time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, the price wise, it's great. For those on the island,
travel? What did it cost to fly over there?
700-ish.
Oh, that's not bad.
We can find it cheaper. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So that's what I'm telling you. It's 700. Could be a little more. Maybe it's 850. Sometimes maybe it's
up and down, but that's comparatively. I just went to Argentina and that was 2,400, I think.
Yeah. No, this is. We flew from Jacksonville, Florida to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then over. 6.5-hour flight into Dublin from Philly, 2-hour flight from Jax to Philly. But obviously, everybody's going to start somewhere different. But that we broke it up that way to make that second leg was 6.5 hours. Not bad. That's like flying from here to Seattle. Right. Not quite that long, but
yeah.
So yeah, flights weren't bad. I like the overnight flights leading into the day, land it early in the morning and then just run, sleep on the plane and run with it during the day. But again, for the island hunts, we're going to build in time a day to make sure we don't miss the boat.
Gotcha.
on that one. But again,
Figuratively
price wise,
and technically.
what's that?
Nothing. I tried to make a
So,
joke, didn't work.
oh man, because I can't hear. Because I'm
Is my
deaf.
mic bad?
No, I just can't hear y'all. So yeah, price wise, it's super affordable. I mean, probably compared to a lot of U.S. hunts, it's going to be a better price, in line with Scotland hunts. Provides the opportunity to a lot of animals, a variety of animals, great service, food was great, bed and breakfast great, plane trip not overly expensive. I mean, I think I'll call for Scotland. When we do that segment, I'm gonna call it, man. I think maybe not so much for this trip. Definitely the red stag in Scotland is so similar to an elk hunt in the Western US in some areas. I mean, it's not going to be completely the same, but as those hunts continue to go up in price and the tag availability goes down for non-residents, I think people are going to start looking to Western Europe for a similar experience.
Yeah.
At a much better price. And when you can get out on the hillside
Yeah,
and I
and
mean,
better service. You go
yeah,
international, the service is just so much better, in
yeah,
my
they throw
opinion,
this,
in my experience.
yeah, I'm not, yeah, this trip, I mean, I can't think it was, I mean, the whole time it was people bending over backwards to make sure I'm taken care of. Great guides. I mean, guides that wanted to put you in animals, guides that knew where the animals were going to be, what they were going to do, how we were going to set up. So I really think there's a point, and hopefully it's not too distant future, but at some point where folks in the US are going to start looking where can I go get, because the experience to hunt out west here is unbelievable. It's so much fun. But if you can't do it because of whatever reason, whether it's a price point or because you can't get tags, guess what?
Yeah.
Western Europe, man, it's got a very similar feel at a lower price point if you're willing to do it. And I mean, we've got, I've been there. Kyle's been over there a lot. We've sent some other guys, of our guys to Western Europe. We can tell you how it's going to feel and what you need to prepare for. And it's not difficult. It's not difficult.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love all the international options. If you haven't hunted internationally, you owe it to yourself to go do it, because
Try it.
it's different than I think it was different than what I expected.
Yeah.
I thought it was going
Me
to be
too.
hard. I thought the communication was going to be difficult. I thought the travel was going to suck. I thought it'd be more expensive. I didn't think the hunting would be as good. I was a snobby North American hunter, and my eyes were open.
I just experienced that same epiphany, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, from the start, the guy, I mean, I don't want to say they held my hand because that's not the case, but they literally, from the start, same thing happened in Scotland. Ewan's waiting at the airport. Like I walk out of the terminal, boom, get in the truck, let's go hunt.
Yeah.
And Paul, from start to finish, and it's constant communication. Hey, we're going to meet here, or we're, not even that. He's like, I'm going to pick you up at this time. And 5 minutes before then, there he is pulling up. We're rocking and rolling. It's, again, it was a little different for me because it was, we were trying to see a ton of stuff. So there were some questions from him to me, like, hey, do you have something in mind? Do you want to go see this? Do you want to go see this?
Whereas
So
if you
that
were a
part won't
hunter,
be the way with our clients, but
yeah,
it'll
if
be
you were
a,
a client, you
it'll be
would
an
go through
itinerary.
the program, and it would
Yeah.
feel like
Yep.
there were no questions. You were just going
Laid out.
on hunt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want
So
to talk about what you have coming up the next
yeah.
year, next season?
Yeah. So host and hunt, we're going to do it, man. I had so much fun while I'm there. Paul says, hey, what are your thoughts on doing a hosted hunt? And I'm like, man, I can't think of a better thing to do. So you're telling me I need to come back. And so Katie was with me. So I got the blessing while I'm there. Kudos to her. She's awesome. She's a rock star. So I wasn't worried about it, but hey, the wife gives it the thumbs up. I'm there. And I'm like, okay, well, let's get into it. What are we going to do? So for 2 days, we're talking back and forth about, okay, look, should we do this? Can we do this? Can we do that? What are we going to provide people? Well, here's what it's going to be, man. It's going to be a 5-day, 6-night trip. So with 3 days on the island, the focus is going to be hunting on the island. It's going to be exclusive to the party. So I'll be there. Paul will be there. There'll be guides. And we're going to go over the top with what people are going to get. We're going to have, whether it's me and Paul, may not just be me, because you don't want me driving around Ireland. I'm just going to be real. You don't want me driving you, but I will, we're going to be there to greet the clients as they come in. The first night is going to be in a luxury resort called I think it's the Grand Malahide Hotel, waterfront, by the bay, where we'll depart from the next day with the boat. So like I said, we're going to build a day in on the front end, so that if somebody's plane gets delayed, we don't have any issues getting the party from Ireland over to the island. So the first day, we're going to get you from Dublin to the hotel, meals included. We'll have probably 2 options for meals at the hotel that people can choose from.
And the hotel stay included also.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's built in. 6
Yeah,
nights.
meals and okay.
That's part of it.
Okay.
So if folks, and we'll building up to it, if somebody wants to go visit a certain site, or they want to go over to this town, or they want to, see something in Dublin, okay, like that is going to be an option for folks to do. But the night's lodging is included at the Grand. It'll be included at the Grand Malahide. The next day, we'll depart from the hotel, jump on the boat, again, covered boat, very nice, easy, 15, 20-minute ride over to the island, get to the island, get tucked in. So we'll be staying in the lodge. It's a massive lodge. I want to say can hold 14, I think. Now there's other cottages. So like what'll happen is the hunting party, our clients will be in the lodge, massive lodge, phenomenal rooms. I'll have photos for them to look at. They're gonna have their own private chef that's gonna prepare all the meals. And then those of us, like myself, like Paul, some of the guys, will probably stay in the cottages, which is just next door. But we're not gonna be, in the middle of their stay. But we'll have our own little cottage, and we'll be with them.
Does it house 14 couples or 14 people?
14 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're going to try and run 6 hunters. It can be 6 couples, or maybe it can be 10 hunters, and there's only 2 of them are couples. We're going to play it by ear. What do folks want? So the goal is 6 hunter minimum. We need 6 hunters to make this trip possible. So first night or first afternoon, there's a skeet range. So we're going to go out and make sure. Well, let me back up. There'll be 2 days fallow hunting, 1 day pheasant. So we're going to make sure people are zeroed in on the rifles and comfortable with that for the fallow hunt. And then we're going to throw some skeet for them, make sure they're comfortable with the shotgun for the pheasant. So that'll kind of be the first afternoon. And then we'll have the dinner and a welcome. Hey, thanks for coming. All that will happen the first day as we arrive. The tide is going to depend. That's going to dictate when we get across in the boat. So at this point, I can't say it's going to be 8 a.m. or noon. We're just going to have to see as we get closer. But that's what that first day is built in. We're going to get everybody across to the island. And then, we're going to have a little fun, meeting and greeting everybody, getting settled in the rooms, eating some phenomenal food. Alcohol's included on this. And after zeroing the rifles and the skeet. And then, call it a night and get ready. At the moment, day 1 is looking like a fallow stalk. So we'll go out and start hunting, and people can stay out as long as they want, or they can go back. We've got box stands. If somebody can't, maneuverability wise, can't do all the hiking, we can get them to a box stand. It's literally, we're going to have that discussion leading up to it as clients, join in, or if it's one group, maybe hopefully the hope is it's one large group that wants to hunt together. Everybody knows everybody, but if not, either way, we're going to talk with the hunters ahead of time. Hey, here's the layout. Here's what our thoughts are. What can you and can't you do? And we'll make it where you're going to get the hunt, and it's going to be a good hunt regardless. But we'll have that laid out for like day 1. There'll be some folks that may have to go to the box stand. We'll get them there. Some other folks will be stalking, and there's plenty of room, and there's plenty of deer. So day 2, within that, breakfast, lunch, dinner included, alcohol at the end of the day included. Day 2 will be the pheasant hunt. Same thing, depending on somebody's capabilities, will kind of dictate where we put people out and how we do, the mini drives and, where we position people for the bird hunt. Those conversations will happen prior to the hunt, so we know. But that'll be day 2. Again, meals, chef prepared, and alcohol at the end of the day. Day 3, we'll go back to fallow. For folks that didn't tag out day 1 or they want to add on, that's an option. If they want to add on a second fallow, if they want to add on a wallaby. So the second day of fallow hunting will be for that. Same as the first, if people want to be in a box stand, we'll do that. If they want to stalk, we can do that. It's all going to be dependent on the individual. That night, we'll kind of close things out. People are going to get, so like I said, the island has a micro distillery. So, and a castle. So we're going to have in there somewhere, they're going to get the tour of the distillery. They're going to get the tour of the castle, and they'll get the historical background on everything. How did the current family get to own it? Who owned it before? What, the background, all of it. So that they, hey, I'm getting to hunt on this. They can go back and tell people I got to hunt on this island, and this is the history behind it.
Right.
They're going to get a bottle of whiskey to take home. So in the middle of those 3 days, that will kind of unfold. We're going to provide a photographer. So as people harvest fallow, photographer's going to go set it up, and it's going to be a professionally taken photo.
Nice.
In between, or like on the pheasant hunts, the photographer is going to be there, just, candid photos throughout the day, but they're going to be professional.
That's very cool.
And at the end of the trip, they'll be provided like probably a link to the photos and whatnot. So that's going to be part of it. We'll have the final night, kind of a departing. Hey, just everybody gathering. Man, it's been a great, 3 days. Here we go. Get ready. The next day, we'll depart by boat. Again, depending on tides, will depend on when we leave. And we'll get back to Grand Malahide. And that final night, so once we get back to the mainland, if folks want to split off again and go see an adjacent town, they want to go into Dublin or whatever, they're more than willing to do that. But the next night is included in the package. Back at the Grand Malahide, meals included. We'll have probably 2 options for them to pick from on what their meal will be. And the only difference at the Grand Malahide, I don't think we're going to provide the alcohol for that, just because it's much harder. We can do it on the island because we can maintain, we can control it.
Yeah.
So at the hotel, we're not going to be able to do that for the first night and the last night, just for alcohol.
Yep.
And then the next morning we'll depart.
Yeah.
We'll get them to the, some folks I would imagine there's going to be some folks that stay. We'll get them to Dublin. So if if they want to find, let's say they're going north, they're not going to want to go back to Dublin. Well, then, okay, depart from Grand Malahide. Either way, if somebody's getting back to the airport, we get them there and get them squared away on that end, or back to Dublin, like what Katie and I did. We stayed for 2 nights in Dublin. So Paul got us to the hotel and dropped us there. So, and that'll wind it up. But
awesome. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have pricing on that? Do you want to put pricing out yet? Is that finalized?
Yeah, we're really close. We got to check one more thing right now per couple. So let's say it's a hunter and non-hunter for the couple, 9,500, and that covers all of it. Again, you land in Dublin to the time you depart in Dublin, minus your alcohol the first night and last night.
Okay.
Yep. If it's an individual hunter, it's going to be $7,250. And again, this may fluctuate $50 one way or the other. We're just confirming some things, but I'd expect it to be $7,250 for an individual hunter. If 2 hunters want to book together, so let's say, you and I want to do the hunt, our wives don't want to go, and we're willing to. A lot of the rooms will have the ability for, you can double up in a room. It'll be about 13,500 combined for both. So that takes a little bit off, like an individual hunt. It gives a little bit of a break there from an individual hunter. So there's a little bit of a discount. And then for folks, like if, let's say, I'm your buddy and you want to go, you want to hunt, but I'm not interested in hunting, but I want to come along and just be part of the experience. Or maybe I could foresee, somebody wanting to go and do the hunt and they want to have somebody film it. Right. We're going to have a photographer, but let's say if it's an influencer or, somebody that does a lot of content production and they want to film it, the photographer they bring or whoever they bring that's not hunting is roughly $2,700, give or take. It's, again, it may shave off some, there may be a slight addition, but that's where we're at price wise on it. And again, that includes the 2 days fallow buck, a trophy fallow, the pheasant hunt, photographer, bottle of whiskey, all accommodations, meals, the bulk of alcohol, all the alcohol while you're on the island, transfer from the airport at the start to the end, which includes the boat. The boat's pretty expensive. I didn't realize it. It's pretty expensive, but that's included in the price. All of it, start to finish.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty reasonable.
yeah. I would think. I mean,
Yeah.
for the value and to get to hunt a place that, I mean, it's just not open for everybody to hunt.
Right.
It
And compare that
in
to
the
North America, way more perks and services, probably less of a price. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, you
For
get a, I mean, it's customer service to the nines.
yeah. Yeah.
Great
Hey,
guiding, great animals.
cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pumped
Sounds
about it.
awesome.
I was excited when he brought it up and we started kind of working in what we want. I really wanted a photographer. He's like, "Yeah, man, that sounds like great." I think he's tried well, he didn't try. He's done it before with a different group and they worked the photography different, but he's like everybody loved it. And I'm like, "Well, I want it to be part. I want, people are going to want good, but everybody's going to have their phone but
Oh,
let's
yeah.
have somebody that's like devoted. That's all they do is they're going around and they're taking pictures of us just having a blast. So
Yeah.
that was part
Some of
of
my
it.
favorite pictures, my favorite hunting pictures are it's always been a buddy who is a good photographer
Yeah.
and just taking candid pictures
Yeah,
of the hunt. Man, that is just so cool.
I agree.
So, yeah. I've been that buddy for a lot of people too. I like taking pictures, but
Me
it's nice
too.
when somebody comes along and they have that mentality and just the candid.
And they're good at it. Yeah. Like I'm not that good at it. I take photos and I think they're good. And the person I took them for is like,
Yeah, yeah. My wife especially. Don't post that.
So yeah, man, I'm super pumped up about it. Hopefully, I mean, we're ready now. We're gonna start. Actually, probably through this, we're gonna start pushing it out. We want to get it set up and ready to go. So logistically, um, we can get it spun up. Make sure the island. Oh, the date November 7th through 13 is what we're looking at of next year.
Okay. Okay. And
November
you're just
7th
doing
through
one
13.
hosted group?
I've got to talk to Paul. I I would love, this is not, so folks, this is not a definite yet. I got talk to Paul. Paul will probably listen to this, so I know I've got to talk to you on it. I would love to have a youth option.
Mm,
I would love it.
that
We
would
don't know if we can make it happen,
okay.
but that is a thought. Another hosted trip, I think, can be an option. I just need, we kind of want to see we're
What the
putting
interest is.
feelers. Yeah, let's see how this. I mean, if certainly if we push this out
I
and
can't imagine people aren't gonna
I can't believe it's not going to fill up
yeah, pretty quick.
with what you get. I mean, if people, what's going to happen is if it does, let's say we get just and 600s and we get them out there next year and they see what it's like. What we're going to do is offer them probably the opportunity to pre-book
Rebook.
for the following year. I guarantee you we're going to, at that point, it's going to be done. People are going to want to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's an opportunity to do a follow-up this season on the male deer in Ireland. It's a long season. It opens in August. We try not to really book them in. There'll be a lot of velvet bucks and stags, which isn't a big deal, but they're also a lot more unpredictable. So for the experience, to make sure we're getting people on animals, most likely we're booking hunts September 1 through February for Sika, especially for Sika and Reds. We're going to try to keep to October, but Sika will start shedding March, April. You could hunt through April, but we're not really going to plan on booking any Sika hunts March and April just because they're going to be shedding. The fallow though, especially on the island, we've already got one hunt next year. I think the first week of March, maybe. I can't remember. Maybe it's the end of March. Either way, they'll have antlers, so we can run hunts for a long time.
Okay.
It's just let's see what the interest is, and if folks are like, man, this is going to be awesome. They want to get their family out there, and everybody's on this cool island because there's stuff. For a non-hunter, if somebody and then they don't want to go out and hike with the hunters. I mean, you got a little village there. You got a castle. There's a ton of sheep, like local sheep that they keep on the island for use.
Probably border collies that they work them with. Dogs.
You know, I I didn't ask, but I would be surprised if they didn't. But drop down. I mean, the lodging is on the water, so you can see, like, you can look out and you're just looking at the ocean right out the window on a number of the rooms. But go down by the water. They'll As the tide pulls out, there's kind of a beach. It's not like an American, don't think it's not like a Florida beach, but it's a beachfront where you can go and pick. If you want to look at shells, look at seals. There's stuff for folks to do there that aren't hunters. But I just can't imagine. I just can't believe we're not. I mean, this is going to get interest, and then we'll look at doing a follow up. But I think certainly Paul would welcome it. I would love to do it. So, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Okay. Well, anything else to add?
I'm sure there is. Oh, let me look at. Let's see. I think we're good on the stuff that I really wanted to hit, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now I
And
think,
you want to do Scotland next week?
yeah, we'll do Scotland next week in a similar, because we're doing the hosted trip there too, or a couple of them, and so yeah, we'll do same setup. Just talk about Scotland's that half of the trip.
Sounds good, man. Okay.
All right,
Thanks, sir.
bud. Yeah, bud.
I have some
See ya.
editing to do with that big internet glitch, so I'll be busy for a minute.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you later. See ya.
All right, bud. See ya.